Hello, everyone. So this is the beginning of the conference about Appew's manuscript tuning. So first 4 words to start with. English is not my mother language, so I do have an accent, and I'm really sorry about this. I do this presentation in English to allow people to understand me better, but I could well do it in my own native French, and that's it. So this is an effort on my part. I'm sorry about my accent, but I hope you can put up with it. Right, so second little 4 words. I like to share my work really much, but I don't want my work to be pillaged. So I do put a Creative Commons license onto this conference. So this license enables you to distribute, remix, adapt, share this material, but non-commercially. You can't sell it, and you absolutely have to quote me. And if you share it, you have to share it in the same condition as I did. Okay, let's crack in. So Robert Appew manuscript, what are we speaking of? We're speaking about manuscript of music. He dated on the first half of the 17th century, possibly 1613, because that date appears at the end of a piece in the middle of the manuscript. It's a compilation of pieces written in tablature, plus some figure codes for the treble hand, written by somebody called Robert Appew, was born in Anglesey, which is an island in the north of Wales. And then this folio were bound together and presented as a book in 1745, possibly, but I doubt it, it's only him, but possibly by somebody called Lewis Morris. His name is mentioned on the inside of the manuscript, but I think, in my opinion, there are several handwritings other than his. And Lewis Morris and his brother had founded the Kimrodorian Society, which survived them and had the manuscript and also was interested by them. So it might be that there's more than one person. We don't have quite a very similar type of music or reference to such music or such musical system anywhere, but in the 16th and 17th century in Wales, very sparsely and with very lacunous sources. But inside the manuscript and around it, there are unverifiable references, poets or musicians or earlier times altogether. And this corresponds, sadly, because this casts doubts upon datation. This corresponds to British Welsh-centric nationalistic scope of today, of course, but also of ancient, like the front page that possibly Lewis Morris writes. He says that this music is that of the meeting of the bards of called by Griffith ap Kinnan in the 11th century, and of the British Druids, which is like strange claim. But that claim is also seconded in the literature of the 16th century and 17th century, where you got a book called History of Cambria, written by Powell and Lloyd, in which they trace the history of Welsh mythical kings, including that of Griffith ap Kinnan. And they speak of this meeting of the bards and claim that this is the music we have in Wales today. And this claim is sourced by the writings of somebody called Caradoc of Llancarvan, which may have not existed. And if he did, well, no trace of him whatsoever. It's quite difficult. But this also corresponds to the sitting on the throne of Britain of the Tudor dynasty, the full names of which is Tudor of Penmynnydd, that is in Anglesey, that's Welsh. So there's a huge renewal of Welsh arts and Welsh music and Welsh everything under their reign, because of trying to establish themselves as the most legitimate and noble and ancient lineage of kings. So other type of 4 words, this manuscript elicits a lot of, how to say that, boisterous behavior, with people having a lot of opinion and almost seemingly ready to kill others upon this. So let me say that opinions and hypotheses in a scientific terms are quite different. Opinions, everybody can have them, anybody. Everybody's entitled to have opinions, and indeed, lots of people who play perhaps two pieces, who they learn from a teacher and are not able to read the manuscript in the tablature, do have a lot of opinion and express a lot of fiery opinions about the manuscripts, and that's all very good. I don't care. But hypothesis, if you want these opinions to have some sort of scientific qualities, then you have to have some characteristic of this is much of competence and assiduity around the material. First of all, reading a 17th century Welsh manuscript requires paleography. This is difficult handwriting. It takes a while before you can decipher this. And then you need to have Middle Welsh competences, because that is in Welsh. Then you need to have musicology background, because you need to be able to navigate through harmony and things and all. You need to be able to link what you see in the manuscript to what's in the historical context. So this is knowledge you need to have to transform your opinion into a hypothesis. And then you need assiduity. Knowing two pieces is not enough to forge an opinion. You have to know the manuscript from front to bottom, and this takes decades. And even now, after decades and decades of studying it, I still find things and I still look at things differently. So, but of course, if you don't have this, you could still transform your opinion into a hypothesis if you accept that science has two core qualities: repeatability, refutability. Repeatability is that if you voice an opinion, there's nothing evident about this. You have to be able to actually argument and bring me to the same point as you, and then I can still agree to disagree. I give you an example of opinions that look like they're hypotheses and they're not. Well, that's a harp tablature. Well, we got German harp tablatures. They're the same. No, they're not the same. Two, they don't write the same music. Three, it's up to you to prove to me that Robert Appiu had access to those German tablatures and tried to copy them. Because if you don't prove this, no, it's not evident. It's not evident. I cannot reach the same point as you, because you don't give me all your reasoning. And so, because you don't give me all your reasoning and you present that German tablature function like this, so that is Appiu tablature function like this, then you shut me up. I cannot even disagree with you. So this is not science. Like, you have to help me reach the same conclusion as you, and then you will still be refutable. Of course, and the refutation has to be constructed, right? Of course. And then this becomes a matter of accepting other people's hypotheses. We do not have all we need to understand that manuscript. I do this because it's here. And that manuscript does not contain all what it's needed to understand it. And it's very lacking of sources we have. So hypothesis is the only thing we can have. So sometimes you do this, you explore in this island, somebody goes there. It does not mean they're stupid or wrong, or it doesn't mean you're stupid or wrong. And even if this looks antagonist, it's not, if I'm right, she's wrong. It doesn't work like this at all, because there's no any stable ground in there. You only can have hypothesis. You're exploring this. If I take this for granted, then this is the result. If I take this for granted, then this is the result. So that's how experimental science works. And these results, they're not antagonists. Nobody can decide who is right and who is wrong. And it's unlikely that we ever can do that. But we widen the range of possibilities, and that's a desirable thing. So if you stay in the field of science, you require all of that. But you could also decide that you are going to be in the field of art and not science, because you want to play that music. And therefore, you play that music with your taste, your guts and everything. And you must then make historical claims, because your guts are not historical, I'm afraid. Very simple, but I feel very sorry to have to say that, but I have to say that. Right, let's go back onto our manuscript. So inside the manuscript itself, there are two types of tuning. One that I would call the implicit fundamental tuning, and another one that I would call the one that in page 108 and 109. Why do I call the first group implicit fundamental tunings? For implicit, why? Because they only are mentioned in some pieces in the title. For instance, there's a piece called Kaneet Bachari Gogowair, which means the small kaneet to be played in Gogowair. That's one tuning. Or at the end of the piece, for instance, you got at the end of a piece called Kaneet Sanchilin, got something that reads Tevrin Kaneet Sanchilin. This was Kaneet Sanchilin to be played in the Trotant or Iskiwar. So they are mentioned in some pieces, but they are never explained, never explicited. There's no chart of them, so we don't know what they were. So they're implicit, and because they're implicit, they feel they're fundamental. If you don't feel the need to write them down, it's because they're kind of basic or fundamental for people. And at the end of the manuscript, there is a listing of tunings, which are very question mark sort of things. I'll come back to this later. Let's start by the fundamentals. What are these? There are 4 names that appear in pieces: Bragodgowair, Trotant, Gogowair, and Iskowair, which I put between brackets. I'll explain why later. What other sources do we have on similar sort of music, or that uses similar sort of terminology that could help us nourish our interpretation? Well, and that's a bit of a problem. We got a series of manuscripts called the Penyas manuscript series. So these are unrelated manuscripts, quite a large number of them. And they are only have in common the fact that they just written in Welsh. Some of them speak of music, like the 147, 150, or 62, for instance. They are difficult. They're written in Welsh of the 17th century. It's hard to tell of what music they're speaking. It's hard to tell of what instrument they're speaking, because we never know if it's crus, if it's harp, or both. And the explanation given for the movement of things, they're very cryptic. They require a lot of skullduggery to get meaning of it. Yet, in some of them, there are little quotes that could be instrumental into screwing in an interpretation. Then there's somebody called William Pugh, or Gwilym Pugh in Welsh, who wrote in 1676 or somewhere a notebook in which there's a diagram of the tuning of R. Hooray, we got it. Except we haven't. Like, this lists a lot of tuning, all of our Pugh plus a few others, and this shows them in such a way that we don't really make sense of them. It's really difficult. At the end of this presentation, I will show you bibliography. You will have musicologists who worked on that. There are a few of them, and they all come to different conclusions because it's not stable ground at all. So you could use it to screw on some interpretation, but with a pinch of salt, really. Then there are other sources of the same period and of the same quality, like, that is to say, not very stable, not very decisive, not very informative, but nothing before the 16th and 17th century. Let's have a look at how Robert Appiu tablature writes the ambitus of the harp. So first of all, this is a tablature of the strings, not of the heights and not of the intervals, because you don't know what value the B has here. Let's do general observation. So from low to treble here. So there seems to be a short octave, C, D, and then F, G. And then the octaves are distinguished by means of diacritic sign, little 1, little hat, little dot. So first observation is, when does the diacritic sign changes? Every G. See, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, F, G, up, hat, then dot. So this pleads for a gamut that has G at the bottom. Good. Now we have information. The gamut starts at G. Interesting. Okay, so we're looking for a system that starts at G. Let's have a look if the names, the terminology of the tuning itself gives us some hints. So we've got Bragot, Gewalt, Trotan, Gogowai. Just the three of them. Let's put Isgewai back for the moment. So Bragot Gewalt, two words, Bragot Gewalt. So Gewalt is mutation of the word Gewalt, which means pitch or tuning. And if you are like this, you're going to open your dictionary at Bragot and find that Bragot is some sort of beer. The tuning of the beer. Well, first of all, two things. Tuning of the beer, I'm sorry, doesn't mean anything. And second, if you think that Bragot Gewai, written like this, can mean the pitch of the beer in Welsh, then you don't have Welsh language at all. This is very bad Welsh. You can see that Ke becomes Ge because Bragot relates to Gewai. So it's more Bragot as an adjective or at least as a prefix. So what do? You don't open your dictionary. You go on to medieval, not medieval text, 17th century Welsh text to find Bragot used as a prefix that would or an adjective that would cause the mutation of the next term. And you find some occurrences, not a lot, but some, as being an expression that means the original or the fundamental something. So Bragot Gewalt translates as the original or fundamental Gewalt, that is to say the pitch or the key. Good. This interpretation is seconded by a hint that in the Penyath series that Bragot Gewalt is a fundamental tuning, and I think also, I can't remember exactly because I dismissed this, but I think also in Gwilym. Then trotant, turn a string. So what is the string you retune? You don't know, but if you look at the third term, go Gewalt, pitch under or below. So you makes sense that you turn something below, then perhaps you turn something up. So you have G sort of scale, then a fundamental tuning, and from this fundamental tuning, you tune something up or you tune something down. What sort of division of this gamut you could have? This is my hypothesis. And it's a tetrachordic theory hypothesis. So tetrachord theory, this is of Aristoxenos before Christ, but also reinvested by Boethius in De Musica in 510. So what is tetrachord? Is not like hexachord. It's not a nomenclature of tones and semitones. It's tetra, 4 chord strings. So it's unity of 4 strings. So how do they function, these unities? First of all, you got fixed values, 1 and 4th. So that's tonic and 4th. That's your fixed values. And then you got mobile strings, the second and the third strings. So this mobility is determined, of course, by the intervals between 1 and 2 and between 2 and 3. So with this, you got 3 qualities of tetrachords. The diatonic tetrachord, only full tones between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. Then you got chromatic tetrachord, where you would have presence of half tones between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or 2 and 3. Then enharmonic tetrachords, when you have a presence of a quarter of tones between 2 and 2, 3. That definitely is not used in Occidental music after a certain period of time. So G system, tune up, tune down, okay, tetrachords. So here is what we have. How do you arrange the tetrachords to have a gamut? Well, in the Aristoxenos system, there are systems of joint or disjoint tetrachords. So you can have disjoint tetrachords like this, or joint tetrachords that will have a note in common. And he calls like different systems, small, big, or perfect system. Let's not go there. But in Robert Appiu manuscript, what I can observe is that you got joint tetrachords. So you got a lower tetrachord, G, A, B, C, a common note. This high note serves as the bottom note of an upper tetrachord starting by it. So C, D, E, F. That's how you can split. So your mobile note will be A, B, and D, E. So here's my hypothesis, and you see hypothesis with two exclamative marks, meaning that you can disagree with me. You'll see why. Why do I choose to have flats here? That is to say, chromatic tetrachords in the Bragot-Gouard being the fundamental. For two reasons. It's because, like the William Pugh lists the Bragot-Gouard as the flat key. And then also because of the organology of the harp of this manuscript, which is a great Bray harp, by nature low tensed. So if you lower everything all the time, I think you get not very functional. It's easier to high up half a tone than lower. So I start as a basis that this would be a flat key. So everything flat. So the A could be flat, the B will be flat, then the D or the E could be flat, but flat definitely. And perhaps two flats helps you understand what trottant and go-go-wide does. So go-go-wide under. So below, you turn up the lower tetrachord. So your B flat becomes B, and you leave the upper tetrachord as it was. And at the country, trottant would do the country, would turn the string of the higher tetrachord. So E flat becomes E, and leaves the lower tetrachord as it is. In the case of Iskawar, why do I not speak of Iskawar? Iskawar appears only once in Appian manuscripts. It's at the end of Caniet Sanchilin, where we are told that Caniet Sanchilin can be played in Trottant or Iskawar. No, is the word in Welsh for or. So if you do statistics, linguistic statistics about the usage in the 17th century of no, because or, it can be this or that, meaning that this or that, but not the two at the same time. But or can also means this, that is to say that, this or that. And this is the majority usage of no in Welsh. So I formulate the hypothesis again, that Iskawar and Trottant are the same tuning, but they have different names. Iskawar means sharp tuning, S is sharp. So why sharp? Well, it's consistent with tuning up the upper tetrachord. Why would I think it's different? Because like crus and harp share the same terminology, but to change modes on the crus, which is a bow instrument, you use your fingers to shorten the strings. So you would not trottant, you would not turn the strings to get this tuning. So it would not make a lot of sense to call it trottant. So my hypothesis is that Iskawar is trottant in a crus musical system. Trottant is Iskawar in the harp system. Of course, I could be wrong, and Iskawar sharp tuning should be a fourth key, could be a fourth key where everything is raised, the two, and so you got all natural. I don't know. You have to try musically if this works. Possible analogies, if you open them. Mersenne, in his Harmonie Universelle, has a depiction of a harp in Chitarra Antiqua et Moderna, which presents a harp of the Bray type and has a gamut below. So the gamut looks very hexachordal because you got from gamma ut to like 4 octaves, I think, and B round and B square being present in the two middle. So that's very hexachordal. But inside, between the strings, he writes in Greek the names of the strings if they were in Aristoxenos tetrachordic system. So that could be hinting that the old tetrachordic understanding of fixed strings and retunable strings could also apply. If that is the case, or if just some desire of Mersenne to look like the erudite person he was, I don't know, but that's a possible link. Now, in conclusion, the system that I presented you is no proof. I have not solved it, absolutely not. I made an abstract starting point for playing this music or trying to find things, because science cannot conclude anything. We don't have enough data. So when it comes to playing music, we have to have a starting point to start exploring this. So it is a starting point. That is to say, you understand it's tetrachordic and you retune, but you must allow for this system not to be the exact system. So if you would like to try with A flat because you feel the music needs it, I don't have anything to object to you. This would still be a tetrachordic thinking. So don't narrow everything down to this system. It's just a starting point. Now let's go to page 108 and 109. It's a bit of a pickle. At the end of the manuscript, we got these pages with scordature, or are they scordature? They're quite difficult because no explanation is given. We got names for them, but no mention of these names anywhere else in the manuscript. So we don't really know what they're for. Let's have a look at them. So they're written like this. So you can see, I can only help you make some observation. They're in three groups. That is one group, that is another group, and that is another group. So they have names, and then they organize. This is the strings here, and below the gamut, so the value of the strings. So let's go through the names and what they do. So that is Kewar Ichel, the high key, the high pitch. So you see that this inverts strings. They do that a lot. JAB becomes JBA. And then it has other further twists in there. Like the G is inverted here. So bizarre tuning. And then Kras Gewair could be translated as the crispy key. I don't know. I'm not so sure about Kras could actually mean. And this is almost, well, not almost. It is pentatonic. G, A, A, C, D, D, E, G. So that is pentatonic with double string. Then you got a series called Coed Gwyddelic Diarth. Gwyddelic means Irish. Gwyddel here too. Shadow Coed Gwyddel. So these are two Irish tuning. One is Diarth and the other is Shadow. Shadow means in musical terminology in Welsh, minor, as in minor scale. Diarth means above. I have no idea. What they do, however, is they have double strings. So the first one has double D, double B here, and the second one is quite normal, but for having double G. That's interesting. And then comes the very crazy one. So Kewar Chwis, like the harsh key, that is said to be Kewar Diarth, whatever Diarth means. And it has a lot of inversion of strings. Almost all of them are inverted. It's like really difficult. And then another one, Kewar Inghauer, perhaps Edward. So Kewar Inghauer, Inghauer means to set up. Edward, maybe, but in page 109, there's another one called Kewar Inghauer Irach, which would mean something, the key to set up the witch. The witch is the name for the brace. I have no idea, but this also has some funky inversions. And then Kewar I Athrovod, which could mean the key of the prominent teacher of my teacher or something like this, which has crazy inversion of strings as well. Now, what is the status of the B and the E in this scordatura? I have no idea. In page 109, the Kewar Inghauer Irach states that the B's are sharp, that is to say square, so no flat. But here I got no mention, so one way of thinking of it could be that the category Bragot, Trotan, Gogowar could apply to any of these. That would be type of tuning. I don't know, my guess is as good as yours. Your guess is as good as mine. What do we do with these tunings? I flippin' do not know, but sometimes it appears that the three fundamental tunings or whatever we try cursively produces a lot of dissonances, which I believe, and that's my belief, you can disagree with this, are not very credible in 17th century music. For instance, in some pieces, the F could be, a bit too offensive. Well, here I got a tuning that raises the F to G. Worth trying, right? And when I try this, I do not bring this music to somewhere else. I use Manuscript resource. The big danger is to say, this is how this music sounds, but you don't know how this music sounds. This is how you make this music sound one way or another. So surely I could try that and say, this is how this music sounds as well, you see? So you must not be too complacent about this and try these tunings. Why not? So recapitulation of what I said. This is the tetrachordic system. This again is my hypothesis, with G tetrachord as bottom, C tetrachord as upper, B and E being possibly the main mobile notes, but also all other ones could also be lowered. It's a transposable system because the height of sound isn't structural. The tablature gives G as a position in the strings, not as a sound. So you could transpose to any instrument you have. Fundamental tuning seems to be referring to a typology of flats and how you turn them up or down. And the special tunings at the end seems to expand the system by implementing a switch of strings or double stringing. And some of these are quite difficult to implement or understand what they're for. So this raises the question, are they really scordature or something entirely different? We don't know for sure. We will not for sure, but you should try and play. And I think you should allow yourself to use these tunings also to try and see what they do in the pieces in the manuscript. The Alchinbaut, thank you very much, now follows a bibliography in 3 parts. I will let the screen a bit so you have time to see them all and write them or something like this. Some of them are in Welsh, some of them are in English, but they all are dealing with directly or indirectly with the Robert Appiu manuscript. That is the 2nd page. And that is the 3rd page. And now it's time to stop this recording. I hope it helped you. Thank you very much.